Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Every day gets a little bit weirder. I write the headlines for these shows every day, and sometimes now I just can't believe what it is I'm going to be talking about. A whistleblower? A government official saying that the USA actually has in its possession alien spacecraft. That's our headline for tonight. A former intelligence officer has come forward to say that the USA has in its possession UFOs from the aliens. We'll talk about it. We'll show you the clips. Bankas, he's running for mayor in Toronto. Colorful guy, very funny. He's agreed to be on the show. He's supposed to join us at some point tonight. Not here yet. Hopefully he shows up soon. I sent him the link. He said he was going to join us tonight, so looking forward to that. He's running for mayor. We'll find out what it is that makes him Toronto's anti-woke mayoral candidate. More talk about the wildfires here in Canada and how that's actually beginning to impact people in the United States as well. We'll also talk a little bit about what's going on in Ukraine tonight. Claims from both sides. Excuse me. Russia claiming it has destroyed a bunch of tanks. Ukraine saying that's not the case. We'll look at both sides of that. LGBTQ plus rights. People on the left side of the political spectrum sounding warning bells about the political environment out there. They're worried about people's safety. We'll talk a little bit about that too. And we'll have all kinds of other stuff maybe too. I don't know. We'll see where this broadcast takes us on this 6th day of June, 2023, when where we find ourselves talking about UFOs again. What a weird, strange, twisted, bizarre world we're living in today, where science fiction seems to be science reality. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back, and let's dig right into the UFO story first, because if true, wouldn't that be like the biggest story of the day? If it isn't true, then I guess we're looking at some sort of another psyop or something? Well, the U.S. is being urged to reveal UFO evidence now after another claim that it has intact alien vehicles in its possession. Whistleblower, a former intelligence official, has come forward and is saying that the government does possess intact and partially intact spacecraft of non-human origin. Yeah, it's true. This guy came forward. Well, the fact that the guy has come forward is true. And we've seen pictures that the government video in, the last couple of years that the Pentagon has actually released where they can't really explain what some of these things are that pilots have seen. And in the past, the pilots have been afraid to even talk about it for fear of being, I guess, shunned, shamed, told that they're crazy. But we're hearing and seeing more and more about this, and it isn't really exactly clear why. Much speculation out there about maybe why. And maybe it has something to do with the fact that we now have a United States Space Force. Who knows? Maybe it's got something to do with money. Again, this is all speculation. I hate to even speculate, but we do know that this guy came forward. This is David Grush. He's the former U.S. intelligence officer who did this interview with News Nation. And I can't believe I'm even playing this on the show. This is so surreal, and yet it may be real. So let's just run a little bit of this. This was an exclusive that News Nation ran. A television exclusive is the way that they have described this interview. Some people, though, kind of wondering if this guy is for real. But we'll roll this and you can kind of assess for yourself.
That task force and veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency is formally blowing the whistle on secrets he says no one has ever shared publicly before.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the US defense and intelligence establishment.
Yes, I was.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
Grush sitting down with award-winning investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who's reporting for News Nation and has spent years reporting on the UFO question.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
Grush alleges the U.S. government has recovered non-human craft for decades. He's filed a whistleblower complaint saying he gave what he calls the classified proof to Congress and the Intelligence Community Inspector General. News Nation has confirmed David Grush's credentials and resume. We've not seen or verified the alleged proof he says he's provided to investigators. He says he can't show us the proof for national security reasons. He also tells us he's not seen photos of the alleged craft himself, but has talked extensively with other intelligence officials who have.
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying the first time an official level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
It's also harder for people to wrap their minds around the concept of a crashed object from somewhere else. It's easier to accept that, yeah, we see things in the sky that we can't explain.
Journalist Leslie Kane broke Rush's whistleblower story this morning in the debrief. Ms. Kane's career has been mainstream and credible, having written a series of reports on UFOs in the New York Times dating back to 2017. He has the credentials, but there's no documents that he's handed over. There's no pictures. And as a journalist, you want to see documents, you want to see pictures. Does that raise a red flag?
Not at all, Brian. I mean, you mean documents that actually describe the craft?
Correct. Yeah, like government documents, or to be able to see it for ourselves.
Of course. Don't we all want that? And the problem with that is all of that information is classified. You know, as we said in the story, everything that Grush told Congress and told the Inspector General of both the IC, the Intelligence Community Inspector General, and the Department of Defense Inspector General, all of that information is classified.
In 2017, Kane reported exclusively in the New York Times that the Pentagon had a secret UFO program. 3 years later, the Pentagon confirmed her story. Her latest report is even more explosive, but Kane says she has multiple sources who back up Grush's story.
I believe it because of all the sources I have who have told me the same thing. So who am I to doubt these very, very high-level people who have been inside these programs for decades, have done their work, and are all telling me the same thing? I mean, I don't think there's some kind of conspiracy among all these people who don't know each other to make something like this up.
So I've got to be blunt about this. You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
Because everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real. And I'm sitting here at great personal risk and obvious professional risk by talking to you today.
Why? Why are you doing
And just
it?
within the last 10 minutes
What's
or
the
so, the
motivation?
Pentagon has released a statement to News Nation about this report. They say to date, AARO has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. AARO is committed to following the data and its investigation wherever it leads. AARO, working with the Office of the General Counsel and the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, has established a safe and secure process for individuals to come forward with information to aid AARO in its congressionally mandated historical review. AARO's historical review of records and testimonies is ongoing and due to Congress by June 2024, and AARO welcomes the opportunity to speak with any former or current employee or contractor who believes they have information relevant to this historical review. And Elizabeth, we know that David Grush, he's filed that whistleblower complaint. He's been on the record under oath testifying to many of these things that he said in our report tonight.
Right, and it's important to point out that this statement from the Pentagon from AARO, Grush is alleging that this top secret program is keeping it a secret from AARO. So.
Yeah, exactly. And if Grush is, what he's saying is true, you know, the spokespeople, all of those folks at that level wouldn't even know this was going on anyway.
All right, I got to ask you.
Okay, so you want to watch more of that? You can go to News Nation. What do you make of that? I don't know what to make of it. I watched Redacted today, some of that show, and they're skeptical actually of this guy's authenticity. And there's something about the way he speaks, that the tone of his voice, his facial expressions, he doesn't seem to have. There's a lack of conviction. It's weird. And what's the motivation? Why is he coming forward? Why him? Why now? What's the purpose? What's his background? I don't know. I've never heard of this guy before. The journalist is saying, oh, you know, you were one of the most trusted intelligence people. Yes, I was. I don't know. Bizarre. Very strange. That's why we're probably going to end up doing that. You know, I think we probably will turn that show we were speaking about the other night, Truspiracies. We might might actually start running a Truspiracies episode weekly here on the Maverick News channel to dig into stories just like this, to figure out exactly what the real facts are behind these kinds of stories and claims. Entertaining, if nothing else. Chilling, disturbing, concerning, if true. Hang tight. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
I said the other night that the support from mainstream media in the West seems to be waning just a little bit for the war in Ukraine. More evidence of that within the last 24 hours. With a new report from the New York Times, and it says they have a little bit of a Nazi problem in Ukraine. Just a teeny weeny little bit of a problem. Here, I'll show you. This is actually the Yahoo News version, but it's the exact same article. It's a New York Times piece distributed through the wire services. Picked up by Yahoo News. Nazi symbols on Ukraine's front lines highlight thorny issues of history. Oh, really? What did we tell you when this war in Ukraine broke out? From the very beginning, we highlighted the whole problem with Nazis in Ukraine. We showed you that there's just all through history, ever since World War II, the Nazi presence has been tangible, prominent in Ukraine. We've shown you the Nazi battalions that operate prominently within the Ukrainian military. We've shown you the training camps, the Nazi training camps for Nazi youth in Ukraine. We showed you documentaries produced by the mainstream media prior to this current conflict in Ukraine, produced by mainstream media outlets, including a documentary produced by the documentary division of NBC News, which shows you exactly that, the youth training camps, the Nazi youth training camps in Ukraine. We've shown you the Nazi connections. And now, the New York Times acknowledging this very problem, because they're finding, or they're, I guess, acknowledging now that in photographs, you can often see Nazi symbols. Yeah. Here's the article. It says, since Russia began its invasion or special military operation in Ukraine in February of 2022, the Ukrainian government and NATO allies have posted, then quietly deleted 3 seemingly innocuous photographs from their social media feeds. A soldier standing in a group, another resting in a trench, and an emergency worker posing in front of a truck. In each photograph, Ukrainians in uniform wore patches featuring symbols that were made notorious by Nazi Germany and have since become part of the iconography of far-right hate groups. It says here, the photographs and the deletions highlight the Ukrainian military's complicated relationship with Nazi imagery, a relationship forged under both Soviet and German occupation during World War II. It's a complicated relationship. What the heck does that mean? Even now, as they finally acknowledge they have a Nazi problem in Ukraine within the Ukrainian military, even now the New York Times kind of runs cover for all of that by saying, well, it's a complicated relationship. It's just the symbolism. It's just those symbols, the Nazi imagery. That's just a little bit of a problem. Yeah, the ideology might be a bit of a problem too, the belief system, the attitude. Oh my goodness. You think if you go back and you look at what was being said, what was going on at the beginning of the conflict in Ukraine, the mainstream media in the West kept saying, "Oh, no Nazis here, nothing to see. No, if you say there are Nazis, that's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy theory. No, not true. That's just Russian disinformation. No Nazis in Ukraine." We showed you Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, in Canada, standing there with Ukrainian groups holding up Nazi banners, Banderite banners, because in Ukraine, of course, they idolize Stepan Bandera, who collaborated with the Nazis in World War II. He's a national hero in Ukraine. It says here, Ukraine has worked for years through legislation and military restructuring to contain a fringe far-right movement whose members proudly wear symbols steeped in Nazi history and espouse views hostile to leftists, LGBTQ movements, and ethnic minorities. But some members of these groups have been fighting Russia since the Kremlin illegally annexed part of the Crimea region of Ukraine in 2014 and are now part of the broader military structure. Some are regarded as national heroes, even as the far right remains marginalized politically. Oh, so they're just marginalized, are they? Right. And yet we know that, like the Azov battalion, that these Nazi battalions have become integral to the entire military operation that Ukraine has launched in response to Russia's response to NATO's response to Russia's response to the NATO response to the whole escalation of the whole mess over there. And that those Nazi battalions, those Nazi soldiers and officers are very influential. They have a lot of power within the Ukrainian military. The iconography, it says here, of these groups, including a skull and crossbones patch worn by concentration camp guards and a symbol known as the Black Sun, Stalinrads, now appear with some regularity on the uniforms of soldiers fighting on the front line, including soldiers who say the imagery symbolizes Ukrainian sovereignty and pride, not Nazism. Oh, no, they were just used by the Nazis and neo-Nazi groups even now, not just in Ukraine, but all over the world. Any neo-Nazi groups use exactly those symbols. That's exactly what they're used for. But, it's just the symbol. It's just kind of a cool thing to put on your uniform, I guess. We just like the design. Oh, says here in the short term that threatens to reinforce Putin's propaganda and giving fuel to his false claims that Ukraine must be denazified, a position that ignores the fact that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is Jewish. More broadly, Ukraine's ambivalence about these symbols and sometimes even its acceptance of them risks giving new mainstream life to icons that the West has spent more than half a century trying to eliminate. Oh my goodness. Nazism, fascism, is not an ideology that exclusively targets and persecutes the Jews. And in fact, if you look back at World War II, in the history within World War II, there were many Jewish people who collaborated with the Nazis in order to gain favorable treatment. It doesn't excuse what was done, and it doesn't mean that there aren't Nazis there just because Volodymyr Zelensky is apparently Jewish. There's more to Nazism and fascism than just not the Nazis in Germany, the fascists. It wasn't just about exterminating Jewish people. And fascism comes in different flavors, It's a playbook. They persecute, they marginalize, they target minority groups, they scapegoat, they victimize. That's just, part of the strategy to rule through coercion and fear. Oh my. But here we are, at least we've gotten to the point where now the New York Times is acknowledging that these Nazi symbols are at least being used on some of these uniforms by some of these Ukrainian military. I guess even officers and soldiers. But you can see they're still trying to make excuses even in this piece where they're acknowledging it. But, I think maybe this is happening and they're coming out and admitting that this is a bit of a problem because they've been caught. And it's not just 3 pictures. You can go online at any given time and find these images, these symbols on uniforms and all kinds of other photographs. There's a lot of it out there. Lots. It's not an isolated thing. It is widespread all through the Ukrainian military. So anyone telling you otherwise is just outright lying, or they're severely misinformed, or they're just engaging in willful ignorance, turning a blind eye, or maybe they're just okay with it. I'm not okay with it. I don't want my tax dollars being used to arm a bunch of neo-Nazi fascists in Ukraine. And that's exactly what they are, folks. We've been telling you that from the very beginning, and now we're actually seeing the New York Times acknowledge that very thing. It is, I think, a move toward, well, maybe that's not quite the right way to phrase it, but it's illustrating the erosion of public confidence and support for this war in Ukraine that really never needed to happen. I think the Biden administration, the narrative coming from there, from NATO, the NATO countries, I think the whole narrative is slowly beginning to fall apart on what I would say is our side, the Western side. I think it's shameful. And it might be a prelude of what is to come. And what is to come, I think the Ukrainian forces are running out of steam. They're running out of people. They're running out of the boots on the ground. And soon they'll be coming for reinforcements. And you know where they're going to be finding those? Right here on the home front in Canada, the USA, and other NATO countries, where they will be looking to us to send our sons and daughters over there. And they will expect us to put them in harm's way to continue this senseless war. And I'm not really on anyone's side here, per se. I am on the side of peace. And I hope that the work we do here on the Maverick News channel helps facilitate the march toward peace. We need to find a way. We're in a lot of trouble. It just keeps escalating. Tonight, there's a dam that has been destroyed. The wall of a major dam in a part of southern Ukraine that Moscow controls. It collapsed today after an explosion. It sent water gushing downriver and prompted dire warnings of ecological damage. Officials from both sides in the war ordered residents to evacuate from the area. The consequences of this, well, flooded homes, streets, businesses downstream, depleting water levels upstream that upcool Europe's largest nuclear power plant, and draining supplies of drinking water to the south in Crimea, which Russia has now occupied. Russian-speaking territories. The Kakhovka Dam break has added a complex new element to Russia's ongoing military operation in Ukraine, now in its 16th month. Let's take a look at some of the images. Let me see what I can bring up. Okay, I have it. I had it for you. Not there, not there. Too many tabs open tonight. Not there either. There it is. We've got it. Here's some stuff. Sorry about that. Too many buttons to push. And up we go. And you can see this. It's a disaster, man. And again, that nuclear power plant, that's in danger of malfunctioning, possibly melting down. They keep lobbing shells at that nuclear power facility. They keep now this, if it floods it out, could take it offline. This is a problem, and both sides blaming the other for the destruction here. I don't know what the truth is when it comes to this. I don't know who blew this dam. I don't really understand why, other than to create more havoc, more chaos for strategic reasons, and the people suffering, the civilians, again. As always, it's the people who end up suffering and paying for it. Even though, today's weapons are highly accurate and they say that they only, military claim that they only target military targets, but you get into a war of this scale and there's just widespread suffering. And of course, many civilian casualties and homes lost here, people displaced, evacuated. And in the middle of a war, to try and find a solution to this, well, it would take, construction crews, a lot of people to put this thing back together, and time and money. And someday when this conflict ends, man, it's going to cost a fortune to rebuild Ukraine. And when that happens, some people are going to get filthy rich.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, what else do we have for you tonight? The wildfire situation, not looking that great, not looking that good. Seems to be spreading to other provinces, although let's just check the wildfire situation in Alberta first, where tonight we have 65 wildfires being reported. Let's show you the dashboard with the information. 65 active wildfires, and the big red flames on the map are Wildfires considered to be out of control. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So it looks like the number out of control is down. And that's a lot less than the 109 or 110 or whatever it was that we were seeing out there only about just a little over a week ago. So they're making some real progress. But tonight in the nation's capital in Ottawa, the air quality index is, I think, rated at a 10, which is terrible. There's a lot of smoke in the air, haze. It's causing some concern for people with breathing issues. Jagmeet Singh seizing on the opportunity. Well, you know what I'm going to show you before him? I'm going to show you this from Stu Peters, though. Okay, Stu Peters. I wouldn't call him a journalist. He released this video. That's how your fire started, he says. So it's a picture of a helicopter. And it appears to be dropping flares or some sort of chemically ignited fire residue in an area to ignite flames. And I would say that's true, but Stu Peters is, it seems Canada isn't sophisticated enough to use directed energy weapons. Looks like they've opted for a drone with a flamethrower instead. Yeah, so Stu Peters is chiming in on this crap about the government starting all of these fires, scaring the living crap out of people, or trying to. And then here on Twitter, where he's posting this, I'm just gonna come right in and say it. Stu Peters is irresponsible. Stu Peters is a hack. I don't believe anything that guy says anymore because I've caught him too many times just outright freaking lying and exaggerating. He's useless, except as some sort of a weird, strange, sensationalistic propagandist or whatever his game is. I'm not sure, but I think he's a schmuck. I've lost all patience and respect for the guy. Yeah, that's right, Stu Peters. I'm talking to you. And it took just other people on Twitter, moments to call him out. Says this video contains a helicopter carrying what is known as a helitorch. They are used for backfires, burnouts, and prescribed burns. So for those of you who don't understand what that is, a prescribed burn is done in a particular area. It is done by government, but they do it in order to burn off brush, sometimes trees, in an area to keep the vegetation down in order to make sure that it preserves the habitat for other kinds of wildlife and even insects and grassland areas or whatever the reasons might be. But it's or even sometimes it's done to prevent wildfires. They'll start a prescribed burn, control it in order to make sure that the brush in the area doesn't become so overgrown that you get a lot of dried branches and residue and crap from fallen trees and so on that can easily ignite. So they do it for a whole host of different reasons, but that's what a prescribed burn is. Or sometimes when they're fighting fires, they might light fires to create a fire break wall, to take out an area of trees, which would then create a gap, so that when the wildfire approaches a certain area, there's no fuel there for it to burn. It stops the fire dead in its tracks. So they'll start a fire to end a fire. So there are all kinds of different reasons why they do things like that. And that helicopter with that helitorch is used for that kind of reason. That's the strategy that is employed. But if you're trying to scare the crap out of people who don't know any better or don't have information like that at their disposal, and you show the government lighting a fire, then you say, well, there's your proof. See, it's a giant government cover-up. They're lighting all these fires because they're evil. I'm sorry, it's not true. It's just simply plain up, straight up, not true. It's not true. Now, we've gone over the statistics. I've shown you that, yes, the majority of fires every season are created by man, started by people. But that happens for a variety of reasons. Campfires not properly extinguished, cigarette butts out windows. Sometimes it is arson. People start those fires intentionally for a variety of different reasons, sometimes because they're mentally ill, sometimes because, as Leo pointed out the one night here on the program, sometimes it's because it's people looking for a job fighting fires. So they'll go out and start the fires so they can get a job in the firefighting crew and go out and fight them. There could be a whole wide range of reasons why. And it could even be politically motivated for all I know. We just don't know. The other thing that is still making the rounds is this report or this story about a man being charged in Alberta with 10 counts of arson, and people only read the headline. They don't read the story. It came across my desk here again today and in my feeds because people are still sharing it around, and it's a true story. There was an Alberta man who was charged with 10 counts of arson. But this all happened far in advance, far before, a long time before any of these wildfires were ignited and before any of them started. That case has nothing to do with what's going on right now at all. The people are saying, see, it's a big conspiracy thing. This guy, they caught this guy. He started 10 of them. No, he didn't start any of these. And in fact, if you actually find out about the information and you check the facts, the fires that guy started were things like structures, houses, cars. He set those things on fire. That's what it was. You have to read beyond the headlines and check the dates on stories too, before you start sharing them around and telling people things that just aren't factual. It's the old, telephone game, right? One person tells somebody something and then the story gets all changed and twisted around. And even as people are actually sharing the actual article with all the information and facts in it and dated far prior to these wildfires today, people still jump to this conclusion that, oh yeah, see, that's the proof. The government's setting all these fires. Look, man, I'm no big fan of the Trudeau government, but I'm not going to sit here and lie to you just to get you all scared. And I won't lie to you on the other side either. And here's Jagmeet Singh, of course, scaring people on the other side in the other way. They all want to scare you because they all get something out of it in the end. And you're free to believe whatever you want. If you think that I'm full of crap, that's fine. You're free to believe that. But I don't really put a lot of stock in what Jagmeet Singh is about to say here either. And he's complaining about what else? Climate change. That's why all these fires have started. And so, of course, what do we need? More government.
I'm in Ottawa today, and just over my shoulder, that's Gatineau. Now, it may look in the camera that there's some fog covering the city. It's not fog. It's actually smog. It's because the forest fires are so bad in the surrounding areas that the smoke from those fires has now filled the air. This is the first time that people have told me they can recall that forest fires have been so bad in this area that you're actually smelling the smoke in the air. You're seeing the smog. The sky is obscured. And it's proof that the impacts of climate crisis are hurting us now, not in some distant future. It's also proof that we need a response to firefighting across the country. As wildfires rage in unprecedented numbers so early in the season, we need to respond with a better approach to firefighting across the country. And we also need to do everything we can to fight the climate crisis and reduce our emissions. Our planet depends on it.
Yeah, I agree with some of it, and some of it beautiful day here. It was gorgeous. I was out walking around, and yes, the wildfires, they're a big problem. Do I believe, that this is all because of climate change? They blame everything on climate change. If the winter's too cold, it's climate change. If it's too warm, it's climate change. If it's too wet, it's climate change. If there's an earthquake, it's climate change. If there's a tornado, it's climate change. If it's a hurricane, it's climate change. If it's sunny, it's climate change. If it's cloudy, it's climate change. If it's 78 degrees Fahrenheit with light winds, it's climate change. If it's cold in the spring, it's climate change. If it's hot in the spring, it's climate change. If there's a wildfire, it's climate change. If you're hot in your apartment, it's climate change. If a lot more people die, it's climate change. If people aren't dying as much, it's climate change. If there's people moving from one place on the planet to another, it's got nothing to do with politics. It's climate change. And what's the solution? Higher taxes. Hold on to your wallets.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, I'm messaging Ben Bankas. I don't know. He may have forgotten about us. He was supposed to be here by now. I was really looking forward to that interview, too. He's a very funny comedian. And running for mayor in Toronto, Canada's largest city. While we wait and hopefully have him join us here on the program. Oh, I just wanted to show you this as well. Those wildfires. Yes, we aren't quite finished with that, are we? Those wildfires getting more attention on the U.S. side now. And I don't take me wrong. These wildfires are a big problem. And yes, we have an unusually high number of them across the country right now. But we'll see where we end up at the end of the season in terms of total number of fires and whether we have a lot more this season or about the same number at the end of the season. I don't know. We shall see. But right now it is a problem. And of course, anything that affects Ottawa certainly gets more attention from the politicians and the mainstream media. That's why you're seeing Jagmeet Singh of the New Democratic Party of Canada, the leader. That's why he's making that video. You know, it's worse when it's in their backyard and they have to smell it. And then maybe they'll get more serious about fighting those fires. And we are seeing now them accept help from other countries. Other countries now sending both personnel, materials, and equipment to help fight these wildfires across much of Canada now. Quebec, Alberta, Saskatchewan, BC. Well, in the U.S., getting attention now. Here's ABC News tonight, and they actually have this right up on their main, right at the top of their main website this evening. Paying attention to this wildfire smoke map. Which U.S. cities and states are being impacted by Canadian wildfires? Experts said inhaling toxic smoke and ash from wildfires could cause damage to the body, including the lungs and heart, and even weaken our immune systems. We're all going to die. No, it's going to be okay, folks. We're going to get through this. But here's a map. I mean, certainly if you're close to any of that smoke, you want to take precautions. You don't want to breathe the stuff in. It's not good for you. And, you know, the smog, if you want to call it smog, the smoke, it's a problem for folks, no question about it. But we're going to get through this. It's going to be okay in the end. Here's a map showing where all the smoke is covering, and it's dipping way down into the U.S. You know, and I mean, we're covered here where I live too, I guess, by a lot of this smoke according to the map. But I'll tell you, I was outside a bunch of times today, and it was a gorgeous, beautiful, sunny day here in southwestern Ontario. I'm not too far from Detroit, and blue skies, sunny, gorgeous outside. I mean, we're quite a ways away from these fires, to be sure, but you know, this map shows that we're covered here too. It depends on where you are. And the weather, just gorgeous today. So I can't complain where I live. I know that many other people, though, are not nearly as fortunate as I am here tonight. And our thoughts are with all those who have been evacuated and are away from their homes and are concerned about, you know, their belongings, their memories out in the Maritimes. Terrible situation all the way around. Let's go now to, hang on here just a second. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a quick break and then we're going to go to Nova Scotia, pick up the news conference. I think if I can grab it, and I should be able to, we'll get that news conference about the situation out in Nova Scotia and the wildfires there. Don't go away.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, we go to Nova Scotia now. Here's the situation with the wildfires there.
With heavy equipment and the large amount of volunteers. And everyone who has helped the evacuees, the municipalities, the Red Cross, and the outpouring support of residents from the different areas and businesses and from the people across Nova Scotia. Everyone is cooperating to do what they needs to be done to extinguish these fires and take care of everyone that is affected. The weather continues to help, and the firefighters are in good spirit here today. They're making a lot of progress. They're working hard on the Barrington Lake fire to get it under control. And they're working on the ground to fight it. We also have a helicopter in the air this afternoon to do aerial views, and this will help to do a better assessment of the current situations. And we should have more information to share with that tomorrow. We are seeing signs of progress. The Roseway Hospital reopening is one good sign. We are asking for your patience as we continue to work. I understand that everyone wants information about their homes and their properties. And I can tell you as a firefighter, I do understand some of the strain that is on you as families and friends. I want to assure you that everyone is working very hard and as hard as we can to get you the information as fast as we can. Given the size of the Barrington Lake fire, this will take a little bit of time. But we all know that the fire and the size that is going to cause structural damage. It's been difficult to get a handle on the extent of the damage due to the fire situation and size. While the rain has helped get us a better understanding, we don't have all that information yet. But I do want to honestly prepare everyone for the numbers of homes that we have lost. It's very difficult to say that we can estimate that there's about 60 homes in total and a total number of about 150 structures. When you add that to the tantalum losses, this is a huge loss for our homes and for our province. And I am sincerely sorry for everyone that has lost their homes and belongings. But I want to reiterate that our province and our municipalities and our partners at the federal level are certainly here to help. And I want to assure you that we will have information as soon as we can. Please understand that this investigation needs to be done. And the fire marshal is here and can take a few questions about the investigation in a few minutes. The Office of the Fire Marshal is leading that investigation, and I look forward to their comments. On Highway 103, There's a coordinated effort amongst several provincial departments and the Office of the Fire Marshal and the local municipalities to make that situation safe. Safety is our priority with this highway. They will reopen that highway just as soon as they can. In Tantallon, crews are still working on hotspots, and people are gradually returning to their homes in a safe manner. Please follow the HRM directions for re-entry. They have information about cleaning out your fridge and etc. We also have important information about the drinking water on our alert page. This is important information for people on wells. The province will pay for the water testing for people on wells who are under the mandatory evacuation. Until you have clean test results, please do not drink that water. Drink your bottled water. We know there is a great demand for the testing kits and supplies, and they have run out in the HRM area. Environment and Climate Change is working hard to get supplies to the city for distribution at the fire station on the Hammonds Plains Road. They're also available at environment offices in Yarmouth and Bridgewater, and more locations will be added to the alert page shortly. Please stay tuned. You should only get a test kit if you need it, and only pick up that test kit when you are ready to use it, not in advance. Yesterday, we heard the Premier announce a financial relief program for small businesses affected by the wildfires. Grants of up to $2,500 are available for small businesses located in the mandatory evacuation zones. You can find the link for more information on the alert page, and I encourage all small businesses to reach out and apply. So many people have been reaching out and also asking, how can we help? One thing you can do to make a donation to the Red Cross. Every dollar of your donation is matched by the government of Nova Scotia and the federal government. This means each dollar you donate will equal out to $3 in support for the affected people in the wildfire area. Finally, I want to stress that we can all prevent the destruction and heartache that we have seen over the past 10 days. First, the burn ban does remain in effect. The rain we have had is helping, but it's not enough to lift the fire ban yet. Please don't burn. I cannot stress that enough. Our resources are getting tired, and we need to concentrate on extinguishing all of these fires. Second, the ban on entering woods is still in effect in the Shelburne County and any evacuated area. Stay out of the woods, please, and stick to the open areas. And third, let's continue to be fire smart all the time, especially during our fire risk season between March and October. I appreciate everyone's cooperation as we go through these trying times for our province. We also have confidence that we will rise again. We're resilient, and the firefighters need our resilience and dedication so they can keep maintaining the high hopes out in the field where we need them to stay focused. We can take care of each other, and we will get through this together. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the situation out in Nova Scotia this evening. Let's just shift gears here a little bit, shall we? We'll pull out of this and go to question period, where in the House of Commons here in Canada, the leader of the official opposition, Pierre Poilievre, Conservative, back on this whole question of Chinese interference in Canada's electoral process and leveling more criticism at that special rapporteur, as the Prime Minister calls him, who is looking into this and is sticking to his guns, saying that he'll launch hearings into this issue starting next month, but absolutely no official government inquiry, which would carry far more weight and would, with it, as a result in the more information ultimately being revealed. Scandal, scandal, scandal.
Oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We learned today that David Johnston's report was not only written by a former family friend and former member of the Trudeau family, of Trudeau Foundation, but that an assistant who helped is a Liberal donor. David Johnston hired Liberal and New Democrat consultants to help with public communications. Can we finally put an end to the charade, Mr. Speaker, and trigger an actual public inquiry? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, while the leader of the Conservatives continues his unfounded attacks against the former Governor-General and his team, he claims that he wants the real answers. All he has to do is to accept the top secret briefing that was offered to him, offered by our intelligence bodies, to understand what is happening when it comes to foreign interference. But he refuses, Mr. Speaker, to do so because he prefers to remain in the shadow of ignorance, to continue to simply do unfounded attacks, personal attacks and partisan attacks. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition
was forced to remain behind a veil of ignorance by his own admission today. He said that he was not aware of information that the former conservative leader already knew about the government in Beijing spreading disinformation using state organs. This is on top of learning today that Mr. Johnston hired a lifelong Liberal donor who was at a fundraiser with the leader of the Liberal Party just 2 years ago. In addition to other Liberal consultants and NDP strategists to do damage control, will we put an end to the act and fire this rapporteur and call a public inquiry now?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, let me read a quote on the former Governor General. I think we're dealing with a very credible individual, and I think that distant history bears little relevance to the fact that he has a very distinguished career. If we're suggesting just because at some point in history he was appointed by a former Conservative Prime Minister that he should be disqualified from participating in public life, I think that is a little bit extreme. This is a very qualified individual, and frankly, I haven't heard anybody question his integrity, and I have no reason to do for. That, Mr. Speaker, was the Leader of the Opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Order, order, order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Which is another reason that it is so tragic that that Prime Minister has destroyed the reputation. The former member of the Trudeau Foundation in this terrible position and surrounding him with Liberal staffers, Liberal donors, and Liberal lawyers. He has ruined the perceived objectivity, caused a conflict of interest, one that he can reverse anytime. Why will the Prime Minister not put an end to the charade, launch a full public inquiry now?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the Leader of the Opposition formerly said, David Johnston is a man of integrity, and when I chose to appoint him to be an independent expert, I didn't hold against him the fact that he had been appointed by Conservatives past. I knew that his judgment was top-notch, and that is what he has demonstrated every step of the way. The judgment that is in question is the judgment of the Leader of the Opposition, who continues to refuse to get briefed up on top secret matters that would allow him to understand what's actually going on in foreign interference instead of making baseless personal attacks.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it's no longer just me that's pointing out that deficits cause inflation. It's the former Liberal Finance Minister, John Manley, who says this government is putting its foot on the inflationary gas while the Bank of Canada is slamming its foot on the brakes by raising interest rates on Canadians. There are literally hundreds of thousands of families who took on big mortgages when interest rates were artificially low that will face massive increases in their monthly payments when they come for renewal if rates don't get back down. So will the Prime Minister balance the budget to bring down inflation and interest rates so that Canadians can keep their homes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, in the name of austerity, the Conservative Party continues to filibuster and block our measures.
I'm just going to interrupt. We're starting to build up again. Yesterday was such a nice day. I just want to repeat, everybody can take a deep breath. And if the words are too big, then Google them. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. the Right Honorable Prime Minister, from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative Party continues its focus on austerity and cuts rather than being there to help Canadians. They are blocking and using parliamentary games to hurt Canadians who need help right now. He's busy blocking an anti-flipping tax for residential properties to help out homeowners. He's blocking the doubling of tradespeople's tools deduction at a time where we know we need our tradespeople to continue delivering new housing across the country. And he's even blocking the Enhanced Canada Workers Benefit. His partisan games are hurting Canadians. When will he let BIA pass?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Families are already facing austerity, and families have to make cuts themselves into the amount of food they can eat and other activities that their families would like to do. What we are blocking is the $60 billion of inflationist deficit that has fueled interest rate rises. Even the Minister for Finance admitted that deficits put oil and fuel on the inflationist fire. Will the Honourable Prime Minister finally listen to his own Finance Minister, and will he stop to add fuel to the inflationist fire? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, it's just ridiculous words again. He's accusing us of austerity whilst accusing us of investing too much. That's ridiculous. Just like what the leader of the official opposition is doing now is blocking measures that will help Canadians now, like an anti-flipping tax, like a measure to double deductions for tools, and against strengthening worker benefits. He voted to block dental care for children. He voted to block help for low-income renters. The Honourable Member for Bailey-Chambly, Mr. Speaker, the not-so-independent rapporteur tabled a preliminary report, much to the satisfaction of the Prime Minister. To do so, he did not speak to the Chief Electoral Officer. He did not speak to the Elections Commissioner. He spoke to no one from the Chinese diaspora that have been victims of bullying and intimidation. And then, with great wisdom, he decided that a public inquiry was not necessary. Mr. Speaker, who did David Johnson actually talk to at the end of the day? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I know full well that the leader of the Bloc Québécois looks forward to David Johnson's tour of the country to talk to the Chinese diaspora that has been affected by interference. But the Bloc Québécois is choosing ignorance on the matter by refusing to accept briefings, top secret briefings from intelligence bodies on the content of reports and on reports from our intelligence organizations. He can continue to do unfounded partisan attacks, but he needs to read the facts. The Honourable Member for Bailey-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, when I talked about the Prime Minister's ignorance, there was a point of order. But I think that that David Johnson talked to the Trudeau Foundation. It's better among friends, after all. I think that the rapporteur spoke to the Prime Minister, but we don't know if this was to actually do any rapporting at all. This morning, he explained that an investigative inquiry would be too long and would be too costly. It's quicker and cheaper to keep secrets at the end of the day. Mr. Speaker, was Mr. Johnson's true mandate to simply put a lid on this entire story of foreign interference? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the Bloc Québécois perhaps would be a bit more credible when it comes to keeping secrets if he were to accept information that would lead him to hear about the facts about foreign interference. He refuses to allow our intelligence officers to give him the necessary information so that he can truly understand what is happening when it comes to foreign interference. He chose ignorance. He did not choose facts. For such a serious matter, this shows us that he is not serious at all. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
The cost of a house has exploded under this Prime Minister. We look at the rising interest rates.
And why do you
that's
support
making
him?
things even worse. Here's the situation in the city of Toronto. For someone earning $256,000 a year has to wait 25 years before they have enough money for a down payment, according to a CTV article. That is absurd. That is something very serious. When will this Prime Minister take this seriously and start taking steps to deal with this housing problem?
The Right Honourable Prime
When
Minister.
you stop putting pressure on him to
Speaker,
do all the
we
wrong
know
things
Canadians
with
are
the
struggling
economy.
with the rising cost of housing, whether it's a young family looking to buy their first home or a student trying to rent an apartment near campus. That's why we're taking action on so many fronts. We're helping Canadians save up for their first home. We're investing in building and
Whatever. Okay, blah, blah, blah. We've heard all that before. And it is pretty rich for Jagmeet Singh to stand up and complain about inflation and rising housing costs when every policy that he advocates for is inflationary, whether it's increased immigration, more deficit spending, more free money to hand out to people without corresponding employment initiatives to increase productivity. These guys really, when it comes to the economy, they're clueless, absolutely clueless. Either that, or they're just plain, well, they just lack compassion for the regular person, for the average Canadian. They claim to be there fighting for the little guy, for the average Canadian, for the middle class. And yet everything they do allows them to just reach in and pick your pocket. It's disgusting.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
And more fallout over a decision to move convicted serial killer, Paul Bernardo in Canada to a medium security prison. Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is calling on the Liberals to keep him in a maximum security prison. Ontario's Premier Doug Ford is asking for the Federal Corrections Commissioner to be fired. And Kelly, the Commissioner of the Correctional Service of Canada, announced the transfer was under review yesterday. This after Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino indicated that, there has been shock from Canadians over this decision. Now, Paul Bernardo, for those of you who may have forgotten, and I don't know how you possibly could, or maybe you're too young to know, but Paul Bernardo is currently serving a life sentence for kidnapping, torturing, and murdering 15-year-old Kristen French in 1991 and 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey in 1992. Bernardo was also convicted of manslaughter in connection with the 1990 death of Tammy Homolka, the 15-year-old sister of Carla Homolka, who was, at the time, Bernardo's wife. Carla Homolka pleaded guilty to manslaughter in that crime. committed against French and Mahaffey, and was released in 2005 after serving a 12-year sentence. That outraged many Canadians. It's left a scar on the country, a scar on the conscience of Canadians. Bernardo, at the time, admitted to sexually assaulting 14 other women. Today, speaking in the provincial legislature in Ontario, Premier Ford said, Canadians have lost confidence in Kelly's decision-making and asked that she step aside, step down, or be fired. He said, sorry for the language, but he's nothing but a scumbag. That's the way he referred to Paul Bernardo. Police associations in Ontario are also criticizing the decision to move him to a medium security facility. Let's go to this clip now of the Premier himself in the Ontario legislature.
Chatham, Kent, Leamington.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. All Ontarians are shocked, angered, and deeply disturbed by the recent news that convicted murderer and sex offender Paul Bernardo is being transferred to a medium security prison. Bernardo is serving a life sentence for the kidnapping, torture, and killing of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French, as well as admitting to sexually assaulting numerous other women, and truly is the living embodiment of evil. Justice Patrick Lesage, the judge who convicted Bernardo to life in prison, stated that Bernardo is a dangerous, sexually sadistic psychopath and should have no right to ever be released. This is why there is something truly troubling in the discovery that Bernardo has been quietly moved from his maximum security prison to a reported open campus medium security prison. Speaker, can our Premier please add his voice and demonstrate strong leadership by standing with all Ontarians and with the families who are victimized by these crimes in raising our concern to the federal government and to the Correctional Service of Canada?
To reply, the Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member from Chatham, Kent, Leamington for his question, but also his advocacy and for being an OPP officer for so many years to come down here and serve. My message to Leslie Mahaffey, Kristen French's family, our heart breaks for you. Our heart breaks for you that you have to go through this once again, relive an absolute nightmare, and we will always, always have your backs. As per this scumbag, Bernardo should rot in hell. He should rot in a maximum security prison the rest of his life. This guy doesn't deserve less restrictions, employment opportunities, believe it or not, freedom to wander around. I'm going to quote the Correction Services Commissioner. We want Canadians to have confidence in our decisions. Well, Commissioner, I'll tell you, no Canadians have confidence in your decisions. You should step aside, step down, or should be fired.
Well, I think that probably echoes the feelings of most Canadians tonight. The Bernardo Homolka case was and continues to be, I think it was one of the most high-profile murder cases in Canadian history. In fact, it probably is the highest profile murder case in Canadian history. And it continues to haunt the country even today. To have Bernardo moved to a medium security facility, and as the Premier said, possibly even be given employment opportunities and be introduced back into society in any way, I don't think Canadians are prepared to accept that. But it shows how lenient our justice system has become when it comes to violent offenders, including violent sexual offenders like Paul Bernardo. Multiple deaths. And Canadians, I don't think, ever accepted the decision to release Carla Homolka Bernardo's one-time wife, after she was, after she served, I think, some pretty cushy time in jail. I think that this is one of the cases that has really eroded public confidence in the justice system and even in government in Canada. So even as our politicians sit there and claim to be outraged, what are they really doing about it? What have they done with the justice system, with the rules, with our laws, with our policies, with our legislation? All of which governs the operations of our prisons. What have they done about the sentencing? Why has this been allowed to happen? What, this caught the politicians flat-footed, off guard? They didn't know this might happen? No one monitored any of this? They've only had over, almost a quarter of a century to see this coming. He's been in jail that long. And yet here we are tonight. And that's exactly what has happened. No wonder Canadians are frustrated. No wonder they feel like their voices are not being heard. No wonder people are fed right up. I'll be right back. Don't go away.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, so I'm pushing some buttons here. I am back. And it's now coming up on 7:24 p.m., June 6th, 2023. All the fallout, all the friction, it continues over all the LGBTQS2 plus ABC, I don't know, plus blah, blah, blah. All those letters, symbols, the alphabet soup. And Christians, conservatives, people on the other side. And I understand how people's emotions are running high on all of this stuff. I totally get it. As a result, today, we are seeing this. LGBTQ plus Americans are under attack. This from a group called Human Rights Campaign, declaring a state of emergency, as a matter of fact, over this. This out of Washington, an Associated Press story, the Human Rights Campaign declared a state of emergency for LGBTQ plus people in the U.S. on Tuesday and released a guidebook for action summarizing what it calls discriminatory laws in each state, along with know your rights information and health and safety resources. They're sounding the alarm about the current political environment. They are the nation's largest organization devoted to the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Americans, and they say advisories warning against travel to dangerous places just aren't enough to help people already living in so-called hostile states. So this campaign is taking action in response to what it says is an unprecedented and dangerous spike in discriminatory legislation, which is going through state houses this year, with more than 525 anti-LGBTQ plus bills introduced and more than 70 signed into law so far in 2023, more than double last year's number. In a report released today called LGBTQ plus Americans Under Attack, the group says the new laws are the result of a coordinated Republican effort supported by well-funded extremist groups. That's the way they're describing what's going on. And I have to say this, I mean, there's no question from my view that what we're witnessing is absolutely a coordinated campaign. That all of these rallies, these demonstrations, these protests outside drag queen storytime events and so on. It's not just organic, it's organized. No question about that. It's absolutely one political movement against another. I think in that way, the reality of the situation, I think, is somewhat distorted, because I think people on both sides are being somewhat manipulated. On the one side, I think government and activist groups working in concert with government are funding these drag queen storytime events, and I think they're pushing them to push their agenda. That's not organic. That's not just people doing what they want to do. That's people being incentivized to take particular action because of monetary incentives. They're paying people to show up and put on drag queen storytime events. And then on the other side springs into action and they demonstrate. So none of that is actually organic. It's all being coordinated, right? That's not like just somebody sitting at home saying, I think I'll go over and do a drag queen storytime thing today at the local school. No, that's the government. I have to wonder why, because what this has resulted in is regression. It has resulted in I would say, gay rights activists, pride activists losing ground. It hasn't done that community, that effort, any good at all. They've definitely lost ground. It's damaged our communities. It has sown distrust among people. It's got us all fighting. I think it's just been a gigantic trap that everyone has fallen into, and we're being manipulated. And that's without taking sides either way on this. Okay, this is just a statement that I'm making with regard to the way I think a lot of this stuff is choreographed from people on various sides of the political spectrum. I think if government stayed out of it, if these different political groups, I mean, if the government would just stay out of it and stop pushing the agenda, or having these activist groups working through government to push their agenda and using tax dollars quite often to facilitate these events, if all of that would just stop and they just left people alone, we wouldn't be fighting at all, I don't think. We'd probably be right back to where we were a few years ago, where people were just tolerating each other and not getting up into each other's faces. But now they put it into the schools. They're involving the kids. It's outraging a lot of people. There's complete intolerance on both sides. You're getting absolute polarization politically on each side. And when they come together, it's like positive, negative battery terminals and jumper cables and explosive results. And not good explosive results either. I mean, very negative stuff. I think this has been extremely damaging to the country, both in Canada and in the US. Damaging for our societies, damaging all the way across the board. Terrible situation. And it just shows what happens when you have, I would say, even within government, people with extremist views. And I've said that many times in the past too. You know, our government, I think, is run by, it's like the inmates are running the asylum. We have crazy people at the helm. A lot of crazy, mixed up, radicalized extremist politicians with crazy ideas. They're taking everything way too darn far, and they're just pushing it right up people's noses and down their throats to the point where it's actually hurting the very people and the causes that they purport to advocate for. Anyway, what are you going to do? Respond as you will, folks, I guess. The fight will continue, obviously. It's far from over, perhaps even just getting started. And so is the fight for the presidency. Here's a look at who's running right now. This is everybody that's in the race. On the Democrat side, we have Joe Biden, Marianne Williamson, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And then on the Republican side, a fresh face, a couple of fresh faces on the roster there. We've got Donald Trump, of course, way out in front with the polls. Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, Asa Hutchinson, Larry Elder. I didn't know Larry Elder was running against Trump. That surprises me, actually. Tim Scott, Ron DeSantis, of course, probably polling in second place fairly strongly. Mike Pence, who probably doesn't stand a snowball's chance. And today, Chris Christie also formally announced he will be running against Donald Trump for the nomination with the Republican Party. And I don't think Chris Christie stands much of a chance either. He wasn't successful the first time around when he went up against Trump for the nomination, and I don't think he'll be any more successful this time. I don't think he's that popular within the MAGA circles and even within the Republican Party itself, honestly. So I'd be very surprised if he polls very well, and I don't think he'll finish very well, especially after all the crap that he's pulled. I think back, and I mentioned that whole incident the other night of that he got involved with during the pandemic, where beaches were shut down, people weren't allowed to go anywhere in public during the lockdowns, and then he goes and takes his family to the beach and got caught, and those photographs of him on the beach with his family surfaced, and he wasn't apologetic really about it. He didn't care. Different rules for him. The rules just didn't apply to him and his family, did they? So many politicians engaged in that kind of double standard behavior. Not acceptable. I would never vote for that guy. Never. Doesn't deserve his job. Once I saw that, I was like, no. The war of words, the propaganda war, the information war, whatever you want to call it, it continues in Ukraine tonight still too. We'll go back to Ukraine for just a moment here. The Russians say they've destroyed about 8 Leopard tanks and over 100 other military vehicles that were sent to Ukraine for use by Ukrainian forces. The Ukrainians say it's not true. This video was released. I'm going to run this for you. Of what some are saying is a tank being destroyed by Russia. Let me find it for you here, folks. Here we go. You can decide for yourself, I guess.
Вот. Ну, близко берешь.
This is
дальше погляди.
Leopard tank that they target.
Вот они знают, что стоит. Это что такое стоит? А вот, я
Like
говорю,
a tank to me, honestly.
Вот там пошел координат.
It's definitely, I don't think it's a tank.
Ну,
at
давай
all.
по нему
It's
отработаем.
definitely not. I can see wheels on
Он
it,
готов работать.
not tracks.
Пошла.
It's not a tank. That's my assessment. That's some sort of farm implement or something like that.
Пам-пам, 943.
That's the end of that, though.
Держу, 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 держу. Есть. Прямой.
I guess the moral of the story is if you're a farmer, make sure that I don't know, maybe stay off your farm vehicles in Ukraine for a while. I don't know. I don't know. But you can clearly see, if you look very closely, you can see that whatever it is that they blew up, it had big wheels on it, huge tires, not tracks. So that definitely not a tank. That's definitely not a tank. But Russia is claiming it has destroyed about 8 tanks tonight and over 100 other military vehicles that were sent to Ukraine by NATO. You can assess for yourself from that one, but there were others. There's a lot of other, I guess, footage out there tonight as well. So draw your own conclusions from that. Oh, yes, and back to Trump for a moment. There is a new poll out showing that Trump is still dominating the field. New poll shows Trump dominating DeSantis nearly 2-1 in the 2024 race. Numbers from the latest Rasmussen poll Iranian have shown a dramatic outcome for the 45th president, Donald J. Trump. The poll conducted from May 30th to June 1st surveyed 1,012 likely voters and revealed a 28% lead for the president over Governor Ron DeSantis. And startlingly, almost half of DeSantis' supporters against Trump would vote for President Joe Biden in the general election. That's strange. I find that very strange. According to Rasmussen, 49% of the likely voters viewed DeSantis favorably. This includes 25% who held a very favorable view of him. Meanwhile, 42% view him unfavorably and 27% very unfavorably. Well, this offers a revealing glimpse into DeSantis' general election fortunes. The head-to-head polling against Trump truly stole the show. So if DeSantis went up against Biden, it's 44-44. It's a tie. Independents, 46-38 in favor of DeSantis. And for the Republican nomination, 58% for Trump, 30% for DeSantis. As the pollster reports, it says here 70% of GOP voters hold a favorable view of the governor, while 37% say they have a very favorable view of DeSantis. But in a matchup against Trump, 58% would vote for the president and only 30% for DeSantis. It goes on, but you get the picture. Trump's still way out in front. None of the stuff they've thrown at Trump has hurt him at all, I don't think. The indictment, none of that stuff. He has secret documents in his possession, top secret documents. Doesn't matter. All this stuff that they've thrown at him, just not hurting him. But you know who it has hurt? A lot of the people around him, his supporters, people sitting in jail. It has definitely hurt a lot of those folks, the J6ers, and others who have suffered, the wrath of the Democrats' lawfare. And that is ongoing, and it's not going to stop. The closer and closer we get to the election, well, even as we go through the nomination process, right? All of that stuff is just going to ramp up more and more. Yeah. So anyway, not cool, baby. What a terrible show. I mean, terrible in terms of all the terrible, crazy news. The Bernardo thing, war in Ukraine, wildfires, dam busting in Ukraine. Crazy UFO story. People fighting in the streets over LGBTQ crap. People losing trust in the government because Trudeau has appointed a special rapporteur, which sounds like a very, official, super official sounding title for someone. I've never, ever heard in Canada I've never heard of them appointing a special rapporteur for anything in the past. Never heard of it before. But they're doing it now. Just another ploy, I think, by the Prime Minister to avoid the kind of scrutiny that he really fears. He doesn't want that inquiry. There's just too much at stake. Too much. He's got big problems. And make no mistake, and this is me editorializing, Poilievre, leader of the Conservatives, would not be hammering on this whole thing as hard as he is. This Chinese election interference thing, the questions about money from Chinese sources to the Trudeau Foundation, he would not be hammering as hard on this as he is if he didn't already have the answers to the questions that he's asking. He just can't say it out loud because it's classified information, probably information that he's not supposed to know about. that he has been informed of. I'm telling you, you don't push this hard on something, you don't claim to be seeing smoke unless you know there's fire there. Not when you push this hard.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back, and Secretary of State Antony Blinken is probably going to travel to China for high-level talks very soon, sometime within the next probably 2, maybe 3 weeks. It'll end up being his first trip to China since tensions flared up between Washington and Beijing a little earlier this year. Those tensions really flared when all those Chinese spy balloons were being reported. He was supposed to go to China to meet with President Xi Jinping back in February, but they canceled that whole thing when the U.S. military shot down one of those Chinese spy balloons off the coast of South Carolina. As you know, it drifted all the way across the country, and then they finally shot it down after it had done whatever it was supposed to do, I guess, if anything. So a State Department spokesperson has come out to say that they don't have currently any specific travel plans for Blinken, but says that Blinken's trip to China would be rescheduled when conditions allow. And further to continue with that statement from the State Department, they're saying that it's their view that there is no substitute for in-person meetings or engagements, whether they be in Washington or in Beijing, to carry forward discussions. And I would say that it's a pretty important meeting, especially as we see tensions over there, over the Taiwan question, continue to escalate. Military exercises happening there, increased military presence on both sides, saber rattling on both sides. And of course, we saw Nancy Pelosi fly into Taiwan in a very provocative act that certainly upset China. Statements from the president vowing to support Taiwan and defend it. Everything is ramping up. I don't trust any of them, honestly. They're so determined to just set the world on fire. I have very little, I have no faith. No faith that they will do the right thing. None. Zip. All that Biden has done since he came into office is get us back into wars and inch us ever so closer on a daily basis to an absolute nuclear nightmare. Don't go away. When we come back, we'll go to the phone.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-FREE. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a maverick. Join us.
Okay, the phone lines are fired up, but before we get to that, you can support the channel by donating at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com, or at maverickdonations.com. Tomorrow, I'll give you some information on how you can get polo shirts like this with embroidery on them. Oops, wrong side over there. Everything is opposite when I'm sitting in front of the monitors. Yeah. And thank you to all of you who have donated in the past and have also partaken in the t-shirt festivities. Those things have gone out, and we'll be getting more of those made up as well. We have some embroidered items that we'll be making available starting tomorrow evening, which I will show you here on the program. And yeah, maverickdonations.com or freedomreporters.com to make donations to keep us on the air, to fund that phone system that we're about to go to, which costs us a little bit of money every minute that we're on. Every time someone's calling in, we pay by the minute. And that's just one of the many expenses that we have here on the program. Software, hardware, subscriptions, video editing software that we pay for through subscription packages that we need to get this done, the streaming software, even being on Rumble actually costs us money every single month. So yeah, there are more expenses here than people realize to produce a show like this on an ongoing basis. So thank you. Greatly appreciate everyone who has stepped up and has assisted us in keeping this whole operation rolling. And I can also say that we appreciate you subscribing on YouTube. If you do, please make sure you hit the notification bell in addition to subscribing. That makes sure that you receive actual notifications each time we publish a new video. If you don't hit that little bell, the subscription doesn't even really work per se. They don't really send out notifications unless you also hit the notification bell. So if you haven't done that already, please consider doing that. Like, share, subscribe over on, friend me if there's any more room left on our friends list. And yeah, share over on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch and these other platforms where we broadcast every night now as well. We're over on Odyssey as well. And make sure that you take a look at Rumble, and please consider subscribing over there. That's the free speech platform where we are growing fastest, and we are getting an increasing number of people watching there every single night. So really, really grateful for that. Now you can join the conversation right now, right here on the Maverick News Channel at 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-3733. Let's fire things up here. Let's get the right screen on the line here. Oh, there we go. That's perfect. Okay, now we're talking. And I can bring this up so that you can see this. And when you can see that, you can also hear the person on the other line. So here we go. And it's Matthew. Hello. How are you this evening, sir?
Hiya, Matthew from England. I want to talk about the COVID inquiry that we have here. Finally, it was launched on July 21st this year.
Yeah, I do need to caution you because we are on YouTube and Facebook still at this point. And so if we're going to talk about any of this stuff, it can get
the rest of what I have to say is contained within the Houses of Parliament. There'll be no more medical information.
Okay, just please be cautious. Otherwise, I'll have to take this whole thing down off those channels afterwards. So just to proceed, just if you could keep that in mind, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so we have an inquiry. It's headed by Baroness Hallett. Yesterday in Parliament, some toffee-nosed Tory lawyer announced a judicial review against the inquiry. The inquiry had been set up, it had been commissioned, the people were there, headed by Baroness Hallett, who's the arbiter, let's say, of the process. She's the one where the evidence from the witnesses, some of whom might have suffered in some ways, would be given to the government, who would then give the information to the inquiry for Baroness Hallett to review. The minister in Parliament said that 55,000 pieces of evidence had been given so far, and the government was fully cooperating with the inquiry, but then demanded a judicial review. And the reason for the judicial review was that some of the documents were unredacted. It means that, well, the term he used was unambiguous irrelevancies. Try saying that fast 3 times. Unambiguous irrelevancies, which means any evidence presented could relate to individuals, and you wouldn't want their details to be distributed, but it's just a cover because he's suspended the process of accepting any more evidence when there's apparently 2 million pieces of evidence, and he even scoffed in Parliament when the 2 million pieces of evidence were mentioned. He laughed and then said that's ridiculous, and then proudly announced that they had 55,000 pieces of evidence. And now they're fighting in the courts tooth and nail to deny more evidence being submitted, or at least the ability to get out the big black marker pen and get to work redacting everything before they give it to the inquiry. That wasn't medical, was it?
No, that's cool. No, thank you for all that information. That's very helpful and revealing.
Yeah, just the scumbags in Parliament and the things that they do. It was indefensible, though. The other MPs in Parliament from both sides attacked him during questioning. He wasn't safe from any direction. But the fact remains the judicial review is in, and even if they're unsuccessful, they've delayed proceedings, and they can continue through the courts to delay submission of more evidence or the ability to redact.
This fight is ongoing. It's going to continue for years as more information comes out, as people begin to realize, what the truth is all the way around, and we get a better perspective on what the fallout from what our governments have done to us really is. It's this is just getting started, folks. A lot more in the courts, and you're going to see a lot more from the government.
All of the legal fees for the time in court is obviously paid for by the taxpayer.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is going to be unprecedented, the scale of all of this stuff, and it's going to I think most of this is going to play out legislatively and in the courts. And, information that they're trying to suppress, it will bubble to the surface. There's just no getting around it. The truth is just going to rise to the top, and people will become aware, whatever that truth is. It can't be hidden. Any other thoughts, sir, tonight on what you've shared with us?
Yeah, just one more, a short one. We have a Home Office which is responsible for immigration, legal and otherwise. And we had she's called Suella Braverman. Cleverly, you can call her Cruella Braverman if you want. She turned up in Parliament with a briefing on the immigration, issue, but she didn't bring any submission for the chair or the opposition. She just turned up in Parliament, stood at the dispatch box and expected to just rattle off something that she hadn't shown anyone else in Parliament, which of course it has to go through at least the Speaker's chair. And it was so dismissive. Anyway, the Speaker was a bit mad, and he said to the opposition, if you need extra time, and he actually dismissed Parliament for 15 minutes to give the opposition time to read the briefing notes. It was a bit disrespectful.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much for the call tonight. As always, I appreciate it. It's always great to hear from you. I just love the fact that you're calling in from England, honestly, because we get such a different perspective and new information and stuff that we just don't hear about over here, unless I specifically go looking for things. It just generally doesn't pop up into my feeds or end up on my desk. So truly appreciate it.
Well, yeah, if you really want the most rotten politics on the second to America, come to England. All right, well, thank you for listening. Cheers. Goodbye.
All right, a pleasure always. And here's Alan from out in British Columbia.
Hey, how you doing? Have you been told today?
Are you going to talk about this?
Well, I'm on your fucking bar stool, eh? Fuck you. I missed Fuck You Friday.
Oh,
well, I didn't. I listened, but I missed, the call-in was, real short. And I went to call in, and you were like, okay, guys, I got to cut out, man. Whatever. So anyway, I just figured I'd say fuck you and find out if you've been told today. So now you have. It's official. Remember we used to say that back in the day? It used to be okay and used to just like being told.
Well, that's before that was back in the days before people knew what triggered even was.
Oh, fuck, right? I'm liking this whole, get rid of woke. Yeah, get rid the fucking woke. I'm sick and tired of it. Oh, what stories do we got going on today? Say something. I'll say something.
Okay. We have the Bernardo thing, being moved to a medium security facility. Paul Bernardo.
Oh, he'll be out next week. What, are you kidding me? He's getting ready to move into a fucking halfway house right now. Okay, what's the next story?
What else can I keep? Oh, yeah, there's the Chinese interference thing and the special rapporteur, David Johnston, saying, oh, no.
Well, I mean, what do you mean? What do you mean Chinese police motherfucking stations hurt them up, round them up, put them in jail? Who ever heard of that? Fuck you, Mr. Rapporteur.
You're supposed to save this stuff for Fridays.
No, I missed it. I told you, I had to tell you because I missed to tell you.
Now everybody's. But see, if I make an exception for you and let you go off on an FU rant, then I'll have to start doing it for everybody, and then every day will be FU Friday. But that's okay.
But come on. Let's be honest. When am I on your stool and I don't say fuck you?
Well, that's very true. That's very true.
I don't wait for Friday. I just let you know I missed it. And that's because of you. That's because of you. You fucking hung up before me.
What are you talking about? When did I?
Yeah, I was about to call in and you hung up the show.
Oh, well, I probably had stuff to do. It was probably getting late.
Yeah. You're like, fuck Al.
You know, very
whatever.
rarely do I ever do that. I try to get every caller in. I really do. On very rare occasions.
But I wasn't in your data bank yet. I was still listening, having a chuckle and shit. Right?
Yet. Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the problem is I get stuck listening, right? And then fucking mouth this out. Fucking everybody was going off, and I was having myself a chuckle with the clan. And then I'm like, oh shit, I better call in. And then you're like, oh, we gotta go.
Well, tell me what you think of the New York Times.
That's why I told you today.
Okay, well, tell me what you think of the New York Times finally acknowledging that they actually do have Nazis in Ukraine.
Really? You're asking me that they finally acknowledge?
Yeah, well, that's the story today.
I think it's the biggest fucking joke.
The headline is Nazi symbols on Ukraine's front lines highlight thorny issues of history. It's just a little thorny issue.
Oh yeah, no, I love the language, right? But I think I've called in about the language before. This is an age-old trick. It's in the handbag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's this whole thing, like the whole tranny, the BLM, all of these things. These are all societal traps for color revolution. They all amount to anything. It doesn't matter what community that these motherfuckers approach. What they want to do is they want to find out what's morally and ethically abrasive to that community. And then they go and inflict upon those things within that community. And what we are experiencing is exactly that. We are watching the pre-color revolution experience.
I agree that there's manipulation going on here.
This is Soros and the Trudeau and the Freelands and the whole motherfucking setup, bro. I'm telling you.
And you know, these people engaging in these, putting on these drag queen story times, you know, I think they're being told, oh, we have to do these things to make people more tolerant of the community. And what they're really doing is they're making it all worse.
No, they're being told they're going to be paid, they're going to be protected, and just reap in the rewards. Why wouldn't you? We're giving you a nice chunk.
That's right. They're absolutely.
They're all pathetic motherfuckers. They're all pathetic. You look at that motherfucker that went up on Drea Murphy from Rebel News.
Yeah,
I
haven't seen that. I haven't watched much.
Dude's like 7 feet on his fucking stilts. That means he's at least 6.5 without them. And he steps to her, that little thing.
I didn't see it. I don't even know what you're talking about. I haven't watched any Rebel News in probably a month.
Well, Drea Murphy. She's a Rebel reporter.
Yeah.
She steps outside her house. She wasn't doing any work. And there's a protest, and she goes over, and she's got her cell phone. She's recording it, just standing there or whatever. And dude gets told that, you know, Drea Murphy's over there. Somebody recognized her. Or Humphrey, sorry, yeah. Thank you. I've had a couple of beers.
Really?
And that's why I'm on the stool. Thank you. And I get to say, fuck you, fuck you. Anyway, and then dude comes up to her right in her face and blah, 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 you know, like, and I'm like, dude, man, I'm half his height and I take him out. I'd take him out. I'm half his height.
Okay.
And she's half mine. That's what's scary about it.
Well, I guess to fully appreciate what you're talking about, you would have had to see the video because I'm not I'm not even able to kind of figure out what is going on with what you're talking about
Well,
because I haven't seen it,
the
but
point
it's okay.
is it's a lot of bullying, intolerance. It's all of everything that they projected themselves are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They say that we're all about inclusivity,
yeah,
tolerance, all of these things, and then they are exact opposite. Right?
It's very true.
So it goes against all of your ethics, all of your morals, all of your journalistic standards, if you want to call that a basis of a civilized moral standard. I guess it depends on what age you're living in. But if it goes against those things in your community, then you know it's the startings of either a soft or a hard coup that's coming, or is in process. Is more likely already in process, which we already know. We have a dictating, loving motherfucking dictator sitting at the helm.
I understand, sir.
So I'm suggesting this is a coup that's already underway. And it's basically a soft coup, whether it's from China or otherwise.
You mean like by a foreign country?
That's right. That means somebody's wanting to run our government,
right. And you're suggesting that Trudeau is sort
and
of like a Manchurian
taking it
candidate.
over. And he's definitely the candidate. He is definitely
Manchurian prime minister.
He's I mean, come on. I've been saying this even when Donald was sitting in there. As great as he is in some ways, he's just horrible in others. You know, like not unlike any of us, really. You think about it.
Yeah, he failed us on many fronts. No question about that.
Right? Like he got bought out somewhere. Like that fucking
didn't do anything about
got
censorship.
The go-ahead
didn't do anything
the
about the
vaccinations
lockdowns
and all the crap.
Yeah, and all this. Yeah, I mean, he
right?
did. He failed.
There was so many things went so wrong on his watch too, just like anybody else. So you know, there's way more going on behind it. Like in our land, Nick, of the woods. Like what most people don't talk about is the Privy Council.
Mm-hmm.
That's our deep state. I don't know if anybody ever thinks or talks about that so much. Nobody ever actually, in my opinion, ever talks about the Privy Council unless in passing, even in Parliament. Isn't that curious? Think about it. Nobody ever knows what goes on. Nobody ever knows what goes on in their meetings. It's all secret. None of it's ever disclosed openly. None of it. It's all top
It's
secret.
an administrative arm that is there to facilitate the implementation and administration of legislation.
Unelected, my friend.
Yeah, but they don't come up with the policies themselves. They do not.
How do you know? How do you know?
Because I know how the process works.
Nobody says what goes on in those meetings.
They don't make up the legislation. They're there to ensure that the paperwork is
okay,
done
well,
properly and that legislation is
properly. I'll agree to disagree with you. I think there's far more secrets than even.
It sounds very sinister, and people, I can guarantee you, probably 95% of the people listening right now don't even know what the Privy Council is. But anyway, sir, we're going to move on because it's been almost 10 minutes. Well, I don't know about that, but in any event, I've agreed with much of what you've said tonight, sir. And I do appreciate your time as always. And please continue to enjoy your beer. And we will resume this conversation on the next call-in. And save up those FUs for the next Friday.
Well, there's always plenty of those, my friend.
Okay. All right. It's a pleasure. Take care, my friend. See ya.
Again, take care.
Right. Let's move on to the next caller. Go ahead.
You got the mouth of the South man without a plan to master all disasters. You know what? I could drink some beer with that Allen guy. I'll tell you. I'm not going to say any swear words today, Rick, but I'll tell you, that guy's got a mouth on him like me. I can relate to that guy. So we're going to talk about a couple of things today. Okay. Yep. Let's start with let's start with the video of the week. The doctor who sexually assaulted that man's wife 7 years ago, who got slapped in the, I'm going to say a bad word here, Slapped in his cocksuckers. Did you see that one on Sun News?
No, I didn't see that.
I sent you the link yesterday. Yes, he's a doctor. I thought it was a politician until I started reading into it. He was a doctor, and he was giving a speech. And 7 years ago, he sexually assaulted his wife. If you could pull that video up, I'm not at my computer right now. I'm on the phone. But that is video of the week, and that's how you treat these creeps.
Did you?
As for Bernardo,
I'm looking for the link here.
Toronto Sun had it.
Not seeing it in any of the
Oh, yeah.
messages sent.
You'll have to look it up for tomorrow, Rick. It's a great video, and this is how you deal with these creeps. Okay, as for Bernardo, he's been in 23.5-hour lockup in Millhaven Supermax, okay, which is like equivalent to the Colorado ADX prison, okay, where they have El Chapo. Okay, I'm pretty sure he's designated a dangerous offender, so he's never getting out, period. Okay, but he's very hard to reach by other inmates. So by him going to medium security and them lifting the security, I think he has the life expectancy of a fly. If they send him into Collins Bay, and that's the medium security for Millhaven, okay, he's going to, you could just imagine what's going to happen to him. Okay, where he's at right now in Millhaven, he's with the likes of Robert Picton, the pig farmer from BC that was abducting the prostitutes and feeding them to the pigs.
Yep.
Serial killers like that, right? So and they're not amongst each other, okay, in that unit. They're by themselves 23.5 hours a day. They get a half-hour sunshine time or a shower, however you like it. That's how it works for these guys, right? So it might be a blessing that he is going to medium security, like I said.
I hear what you're saying
because
there.
he might be dealt. Yeah, he might be dealt with. There's solid people. Okay, even though he'll still be in protected custody, there's always solid people that are in protected custody that are in fear for their lives because they couldn't pay their weekly debt for cigarettes or drugs or whatever, so they check in, right? Yeah. I call them Harvey hideouts, right? But they're still solid guys that are amongst in there, right? So, it is what it is. What's going to happen to them. As for the fires, my wife said something to me today. I said, somebody's got to be starting these fires because we haven't had any rain in 3 weeks. So there's been no lightning, right, to ignite this.
Mm-hmm.
You need something to ignite it, a match, a campfire, something, right?
Yeah, something,
right? I could see if we were in lightning, we had lightning storms and this and that, okay, that could happen. That will happen. Okay, and it has happened with lightning storms, but we haven't had any rain or anything, right? So I'm very suspicious on what's going on. Really, I am. Because down here in southwestern Ontario, I don't know, well, you're not far from me, but I could smell the smoke here from up north. And it's blowing this way, right? So Detroit, there's a haze. The sun couldn't even break through the smoke today. So, you know what I'm saying, Rick?
I hear you. Yep, I do.
Yeah. So I don't, I'm still bent on the people starting fires for their own personal gain, and that's putting them out. They pay big bucks.
Yeah. Well, we know for sure that it's almost 60% of all wildfires every year are man-made, like caused by man, often accidental, sometimes arson. That's why, for years and years, we saw those commercials with Smokey the Bear, right? But, that was to make sure that people put their campfires out properly and so on. But yeah, arson is quite often a cause. And you're quite right. We've seen convictions for exactly the thing that you're talking about in the past. It's it's
still going on. I think I seen a link the other day. I don't know if it's true or false, but some woman in Alberta was charged with 16 counts of arson. Bad timing, that's for sure. With what's going on all over the country, it's not just Ontario, right? So
a woman charged with 16 counts of arson.
Yeah, I thought I tagged you in that one too.
Well, there was the article that I referred to earlier about the man being charged with 10 counts. but that
No, there was a woman.
that's being shared around all over the place, and that's quite erroneously as people saying, "See, it's the government starting all these fires," but no, it wasn't. It's not even related to what's going on right now. So this was in Alberta.
Yeah, in Alberta, yeah. I seen it the other yesterday. Actually, somebody sent it to me.
32
Like,
counts of arson, June 4th. Here it is here.
Is that her? There you go.
54-year-old woman from Glendon, Alberta, charged in connection with a series of wildfires in central and northern Alberta this spring. In a news release issued Friday, the RCMP and Audrey Elaine Dunham has been charged with 32 counts of arson after an in-depth investigation into a series of suspicious wildfires in Bonnyville and Lac La Biche areas. On the night of April 24th.
There you go.
That was back in April 24th. A month later, on May 27th, 7 wildfires reported near Highway 55 and Highway 881. Police said a total of 19 wildfires have been started in the area over the course of a few hours. And the investigation is the result of a partnership between Alberta Agriculture and Forestry, Bonnyville Regional Fire Authority, the RCMP, Forestry Crimes Unit, and Bonnyville RCMP. If the Forestry Crimes Unit can be instrumental in preventing wildfires and hold those who start the fires accountable, then this investigation is a success, it says here. So, yeah.
Yeah, what do you do with these people? You know what I mean? What do you do with them? You know, you take away their rights for guns and matches and lighters, right? At the end of the day, they're sick. They're sick people.
They absolutely
right?
are. Thanks for bringing my attention to that, Leo, because I had missed that. But you see, I was, as you know, I was off yesterday, so I wasn't as, acutely tuned into the news cycle. So that one I missed, and that's a really important story because that explains a lot of what was going on has been going on out in Alberta.
Well, actually, the follow-up on the doctor, you'll see that he is charging the guy who slapped him in the face. He raped his wife 7 years ago. And you're gonna love this video. It is video of the week because that's my style. Okay, that's how you deal with these creeps. I'd take it a little further than what he got, but that's me. He's lucky. He's very lucky, I'll tell you, because the guy who slapped him, he ain't a very small guy.
And where was this? Where did this happen? What city?
I think it's Toronto. If you look it up, if you Google it, okay, and then man slapped, doctor slapped, you'll see the video come up. It streamed very fast last night.
I'll have to find it maybe for tomorrow.
20 minutes before your show. It was about 20 minutes before your show. On to the Pride.
Mm-hmm.
Now the government is now upping the security costs for the Pride parades on the backs of the taxpayers.
Great.
Did you see anything about that?
No, I hadn't seen that yet, but not surprised.
Yeah. No. That's out there too. That's another news story. That's in the mainstream media. That the government is going to be giving out more funds, okay, to up security for the Pride parades on the backs of us taxpayers. It's getting out of hand. Really, it is.
Yeah.
Either you like it or you don't go. Don't go. I'm not going. Period.
Yeah.
What's that tell you? I don't like it. I don't support it, and I'm not gonna. Right. So I don't support the people.
Yeah. They're going to increase. They're going to be providing $1.5 million to Pride organizations across the country for increased security measures at parades and other events this year.
They could have did a lot cheaper. $1.5 million for $500,000. They just could have bought KY jelly for everybody and had a good old day. Right. At the end of the day, I'm not playing that game. Okay, I'm not even, like I said, I got a nephew that's gay. That's his prerogative. At the end of the day, I'm not supporting it. I'm not, and I will not. So, but the government is making us support it. The security costs, anyways.
Well, they are now another $1.5 million.
Yeah.
So,
but for tomorrow, also, like I said, check in Rodney Stafford. He was watching me on Facebook. I couldn't get the link to the YouTube or whatever. I was on tour in my shop with some people buying up machines. That's another story. We're selling 20 machines and buying 15 new ones. investment, $22 million into our business here. So should be interesting to see
And
the
just
next
for
month.
people who don't know, what's the business you're in there, Leo?
I'm in tool and mold,
Mm-hmm.
CNC,
right,
machinist, right? So they getting rid of all the old ones, and people are coming in from all over the world, China, Mexico, and they're buying up all. Well, I wouldn't say they're garbage, but there's still use for them in what would we say in a country that's that could use them. Right? And it ain't our country, so they're getting those out, and we're getting new ones in. So any developing country, right, that are taking these things, so just get them out here. We got brand new ones coming in. It's weird, because you hear the economy's down, this and that, but the trade that I'm in, we're 2-3 years ahead of everybody else. We have to be.
Yeah.
Right. So I get so much work. I'm back to 12, 13, 14-hour shifts if I wish. Right.
Yeah. Well,
so
it's.
I'm not going to say no.
Yeah. I mean, there's money flowing right now. Hopefully that translates into profits and more growth for the future too.
Yeah, 100%. Right. So like I said, we're 2-3 years ahead of the ball game, and with the EV cars and everything else, I don't even know what I'm cutting anymore. Really. I used to look at a tool and go, okay, that's a Cadillac grill. I would know, right? With these EV cars, I don't even know what the hell I'm cutting anymore. It's just funny. It is what it is. And you're going to get that Rodney Stafford on the show. Okay. I reached out to Rodney for you. He wants on the show. He was watching you, like I said, on Facebook, and he likes what he sees, right? And his story is remarkable, people. Okay. And you'll be asking him all kinds of questions. You know, he's had to sit down with Prime Minister Trudeau, I think in 2015, on promises that they're going to get tough on crime. He's got no respect for Trudeau.
Well, looking forward to that
And
interview.
you know the story. Yeah, you know the story, right? So, sad story. And at the end of the day, he's going to be a great interviewer, buddy. You got this guy. That's for sure.
Appreciate that, Leo.
So, this what it is. Reach out to him, Rick. I just want to say also, Matthew from England, great caller, man. Great caller.
Yeah, I always appreciate
his insight on politics. His insight on politics is remarkable. And
Yes, sir.
You know, I like that. He is from England, and it's funny that you are reaching out around the world, and that's a good thing, right? So, and as for Alan, you're on my bucket list. Someday we're going to drink some beer and F you, and it's going to be funny as hell.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Have a good night, Rick.
You too, Leo.
Bye-bye.
Take care. All right. And you can support the channel by going to freedomreporters.com. I'll put the banner up here. freedomreporters.com. You can donate there. That takes you to the PayPal link, or maverickdonations.com. That takes you to the Give, Send, Go. And again, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, CloudHub, BitChute. I think I said YouTube, Rumble. Please consider subscribing over on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell, and share over on Facebook. We still have a pretty sizable and growing audience on Facebook as well. Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. We are going to wrap it up, and I'll be back tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So much for Ben Bankas. Was looking forward to doing the interview with him tonight, but he is a no-show this evening. Headline feature interview all set up, and the man who is running for mayor in Toronto fails to show. Well, maybe we'll rectify that on the flip side tomorrow night. Catch you then.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.